Let's continue, Be'ez Hashem, with our introduction to the Avodas Yom Kippurim and get an overview of what goes on that great day of Yom Kippurim. We mentioned that after the Haktorah is completed, then the Kohen Gadol prays a very short prayer in the Heichal. After he finishes that, he goes on to the Azos of the Damapar in the Kodesh Kodshim Ben Abadim. And from there, we said he goes on to slaughter, to shech the Sa'ir, the Sa'ir Hashem. He goes on to do the Hazos Damim of the Sa'ir Ben Abadim, again in the Kodesh Kodshim. So now he's already implemented a double Hazah, twice, of Sheva Pa'amim Be'etzba'o in the Kodesh Kodshim Al Pnei HaKapores, Lefnei HaKapores. He did so for the Damapar, he did so with the Dam of the Sa'ir, and now he goes out into the Heichal. Another round of Hazos that take place in the Heichal. The Torah tells us, again going weiter in the Parsha of Achrimos, V'chiper al HaKodesh, mitum'os b'nei Yisrael, mipish'eim l'chol chatosam, v'chein yaseh li'ol moed, ha'shochein itom b'soch tumosam. And Chazal derive from this that there's another Hazah, which is Keneged HaParoches, in addition to the Hazah that was Bein Abadim. Because it says here, V'chein yaseh li'ol moed, meaning, to the same extent that he did a Hazah l'fnai v'l'fnim in the Kodesh Kodshim, now he's going to do the same exact Hazah in the Heichal, Keneged HaParoches. And the Pasuk says, V'chol Adam lo yeh ba'ol moed b'vo l'chaper b'kodesh hatzeiso v'chiper b'ado b'yad b'so b'yad kol kal Yisrael. No one goes in with him into the Kodesh Kodshim to witness this series of Hazos. Now we're up to the next stage. Now we take the Damapar together with Damasoyer and we mix it together. And now it's going to be a Hazah of this mixture of the Damapar and the Damasoyer on the four chronos of the inner Mizbeach in the Heichal, because the Torah says, V'yotza el ha-Mizbeach asher lifnei Hashem. Lifnei Hashem means in the Heichal, a reference clearly to the Mizbeach HaPnimi. V'chiper alav v'lakach midam hapar umidam ha'sa'ir, a mixture of the two damim, v'nasan al kronos ha-Mizbeach saviv. And he goes around from one keren, one corner, to the other corner, doing the Hazos of this mixture of damim on the four chronos. And that's called Ma'arvim Likronos. Next, there's going to be a second set of Hazos with this Taroves, with this mixture of the Damapar and the Damasoyer, Al Taro Shel Mizbeach, on the Gag, on the top of the Mizbeach. Chasuf means that they expose the Gag by moving the Gecholim, all the ashes and so forth, from the Karbanos to this side and to that side, exposing the Gag of the Mizbeach HaPnimi. And here the Torah says, V'yizah lov min adam b'etzba'o sheva pamim v'tiaro v'kitsho mitumas b'nei Yisrael. Now, we have what's called Shirayim. There is dam that was, so to speak, left over, a residue of dam, and he's finished all the matanos of dam. What does he do with the remainder of the dam that's in the mizrak, in the receptacle? That's called shvichas shirayim. And this is going to take place b'yesod hamizbeach hachitzon. He's going to have to take the shirayim of dam and pour it on the yesod of the outer mizbeach. And even though we're talking about chatos pnimios, and the hazor was inside the heichal, nevertheless, the shvicha shirayim is going to be on the mizbeach hachitzoni, on the outer mizbeach. And I want to read to you a few lines here in the note. He writes, the shvicha shirayim shel chatos pnimius shaza oson hazos doma beheichal b'shayimos hashana. Every other day, with the exclusion of Yom Kippur, the Torah records in Vayikra Perek Daled, quote, "V'nasana kohen adam al karnos mizbach ktores hasamim lifnei Hashem asher b'ol moed v'eskol dam hapar yishpach el yisod mizbach ha'olah asher pesach oel moed." Now, there's an extra word here in this pasuk, and the Sugin Zvachim Adafnam and Nun Beis makes a big deal about the extra word hapar, and that's a ribui of the power of Yom Kippurim for Shvichas Shirayim. And the Gemara says that where should the Shvichas Shirayim be taking place after the Azos? And this is how Shlomi is completing the Avodas Adam. You and I would say that since he did the Hazos Adam inside the Heichal, therefore the Shvicha Shirayim likewise should be in the Heichal on the Mizbach HaPnimi. But from the fact that the Torah in Vayikra Dalet addresses the Shvicha Shirayim on the Yesod Mizbach HaOlah, which is the Mizbach HaChitzoni in the Azora outside of the Heichal, and the extra word apar is l'rabos par shel Yom Kippurim. Therefore, the shvicha shirayim of the dam, whose hazah took place inside the heichal, will take place on the yesod of the mizbach achitzoni outside of the heichal. Okay, now we're up to vidui. And we're talking about the Soya Mishtaleach, which he sends Lazazel. The Torah says, "V'chila mechaperes hakodesh, v'es ol moed v'es hamizbeach v'hikriv es ha'sa'ir hachai." So now he's makriv the Soyer Lashem, but then after completing the akrav of the Soyer Lashem, V'samach Aaron ashtei yodav al rosh hasor achai, v'sfadolov es kol avanos b'nei Yisrael. He now has one soyer from the two that's still alive after he's completed the avodah of the Sar Lashem, and now he has to recite vidui al shem kol b'nei Yisrael, al kol pisheim, lechol chatosam. V'nasan osam al rosh hasa'ir. If you take this passage translated literally, it means all the sins of Bnei Yisrael via the vidui of the Kohen Gadol are now placed on the head of the Sa'ir. And the Torah says, V'shilach, and now he sends that Sa'ir that's holding to all the avonos of Bnei Yisrael biyad in the hands of an Ish Itiya Midbara, and this Ish Itiya is going to take the Sa'ir into the desert. And the final pasuk is V'nasa hasoyer all of his kol avonos el eretz gzeira v'shilech hasar b'midbar, and all the sins are being carried out by the soyer out into the desert. And this is after the vidui al shem kol Yisrael of the Kohen Gadol over the head of the soyer hamishtaleh. What does he do now? He sends the soyer out to Azazel in the hands of the Ishiti. What happens now? What happens is Kriyas HaTorah. The Kohen Gadol is allowed at this point to leave the environs of the Azor, to go into the Ezras Noshim, and there to read the Torah publicly. And what allows him to do so is the fact that V'shilach Hamidbara, he's already sent the Soyer Lazozel out with the Ish'iti. Once the Soyer reaches the Midbar, then the Kohen Gadol has fulfilled his obligation. The Shliach is operating on behalf of the Kohen Gadol, and now the Kohen Gadol could leave the Azara, enter into the Ezras Noshim, and read the Torah. Next is Sreifas Par V'Soyer V'Beis Hadesha. According to the Mishnah, it would seem that the Kohen Gadol will wait until he gets the message that the Soyer Lazozel already reached its destination. And at that point, Kisha Amrlo Shigia Sar Lazozel, then he can leave the Kodesh. V'yotze li Ezras Noshim v'kori b'Torah's Parshios Hayom. What does he read from the Torah? He reads from Parshas Avodas Yom Kippurim. There's a footnote here. He says, the Das Rashi, Nidreshes Mishivas Yimei Miluim, Shekara Moshe B'Tchilas Yimei Miluim is Parshas HaMiluim Yisrael. Wow, this gives you the impression that Rashi, and this on Daf Samaches, Rashi understood that the Kriyas HaParshios is Doraisa, because he derives it from the Shivas Yimei Miluim. At the beginning of the Shivas Yimei Miluim, Moshe Rabbeinu read the Parsha Miluim publicly to all of Israel, and from that we derive, says Rashi, the obligation of the Kohen Gadol and Yom Kippurim to read the Parsha publicly. And these are major chunks of Parshas Achrei Mos. Okay. Now we're going to take a little bit of a pause over here because of Yom HaZikaron. So hang in there.